everybody. Welcome to the July edition of the Community Office Hours, Thunderbird. We are here for a part 2. If you watched last month's episode about SUMO articles, this month we're going to talk about the SUMO Support Forum. So we are joined again by with Roland and Wayne, our SUMO experts, and Monica. And so Monica and I are going to be asking some questions. So we're talking about the support forum today. Roland and Wayne have a little presentation to kind of set the stage and show you all what that is. So if you guys want to take it away, Wayne, you could start sharing, and then Monica and I will rapid fire questions at you afterwards.
Yeah. Okay. We'll start. I'm Roland, your friendly support person at MZLA, the only staffer working on support. That includes the knowledge base, which we talked about in the previous office hours, the SUMO knowledge base, and the SUMO forum, otherwise known as the community forum, also known as the AAQ, ask a question, because that's what it's called, I believe, in the code base for the support.mozilla.org website, which is what SUMO stands for. So Wayne is community manager. But Wayne is so much more. He's also release manager and been around with Thunderbird since 1.0. Is that correct, Wayne?
Yeah, approximately. Yep.
Next slide, please.
Cool.
I feel so powerful. I can say next slide, please. So yeah, this is a very based on the same format we did the knowledge base. But thank you, the contributors. We always need help. Our free products. Or a free product. Eventually, we'll have free products, plural. Thunderbird for Android, Thunderbird for desktop, and eventually we'll have Thunderbird for Android. Are all powered by the community, both the knowledge base and, as we are focusing on today, the support forum. Who, what, how, and then we have a wiki page, wiki.mozilla.org. That short link, mzl.la or mzl.la for Americans /TB forum, is a shortcut to the wiki. So yeah, in the fancy word alert, interregnum between Mozilla messaging and the start of MZLA and myself and Wayne, we really did not have any staff members looking at the forum in any consistent way. And now we do. We have Wayne and I, mostly Wayne at this point. Which means that in that interregnum, when things were quiet, when MZLA had not yet formed, and even when MZLA was still forming and storming, there was nobody except the volunteers, the contributors. And so thank you so much for answering so many support questions without any help or encouragement or nudging from us in staff. So David SK, Matt AU support, Matt in Australia, who I know, Toad Hall, who I know. I mean, I know all these people except perhaps at Next. SF House, Chris T1, I think I got that right, at Next, who is part of the Italian community on the SUMO forum. Next slide, please. Thank you so much. Without you, we're nothing. So yes, it is a community of volunteers with some staff. Wayne's going to give a demo and kind of his workflow for what he does periodically, but he in no way maintains the consistency of the volunteers. So thank you so much yet again. There's a word missing here in the slide, which I'll fix later. It's a community of volunteers who answer support questions. The right is wrong. Oh, well. Editing, I'm bad. Next slide, please. So yeah, I use the wonders of Google BigQuery, which I just last week got access to, and unfortunately, it's not open to the public yet. I'm working on it. It takes time. My apologies. It takes so long to get public dashboards out. But in the year 2023, we had 12,000 Thunderbird desktop questions. 1,000 were marked solved by the original poster. And we had 50 contributors who we've already thanked. But thank you again and again and again. And for those who have answered thousands of questions over the years, whether you're active or inactive, thank you. Thank you. I know there are some people who have passed away. Some people have moved on. but it's an amazing legacy of help, volunteer-powered help. Next slide, please. So the SUMO forum is a forum in English, mostly. Most of the questions are in English. Dutch, Italian, Czech, and a few other languages, I believe Portuguese. In the wiki, I'll try to get a definitive list in the link, and the wiki with our links. Basically, the wiki page is a set of links, and I'll put a link to all the languages if I can find them that we have. But it's the same markup language as the knowledge base. So if you're familiar with Wikipedia or familiar with the SUMO knowledge base markup, then you use the same markup to answer the questions for links, for bolding, for headings, etc., etc. So help wanted, we have this slogan, or I have the slogan of get in where you fit in. Find a Thunderbird question, which Wayne will demonstrate how to find a Thunderbird question. Reply using these guidelines, links to a SUMO knowledge base article that our friends and colleagues at the Mozilla Corporation who take care of Firefox support and take care of support.mozilla.org in general put together. For meta questions on how to support folks, please ask in Matrix, the public Matrix channel, which is called TB Support Crew, or on Slack. We have a Thunderbird channel, and there's plenty of channels on Slack. You can also email Wayne at thunderbird.net and Roland at thunderbird.net. And of course, there is actually a Matrix room, an additional Matrix room for community support. You can ask support questions in there. I just wanted to point that out. But for meta support, like, I don't know exactly how to phrase this, or is this person spammer, or is this the right steps? Should I be recommending this unsupported workaround? Ask in Matrix or Slack, please. So yeah, so these are two screenshots. The left screenshot shows the Thunderbird Community Forum as it's called now. It was recently renamed from something else. This is how you find the questions. It's going to affect your dashboard. Would it be appropriate? There is an add-on developed by volunteers, Johannes, Danny Collin, etc., that streamlines this workflow, and that perhaps, if it works for you, makes it better. A lot of people find it useful. And then you reply. So you click on a question. So for example, I don't know if you can read this, but there's a question called deleted emails. If you want to reply, you click on deleted emails. You fill in your reply using this markup we just discussed, and then you click on post reply. That is it. What would happen is this, because I mentioned repeat, this will often require a set of questions back and forth. So try to minimize that, which I think is in the next slide. Next slide, please. So yeah, sorry for this wall of text. But details are important, and don't want to be intimidating, and we are humans. But please, please, please do ask for troubleshooting details as early as possible, and as early as possible, ask them to try troubleshoot mode. We get a lot of questions, and ask them to screenshot, please. We get a lot of questions that have no troubleshooting details, and my joke is, if you could read my mind, or if I could read your mind, I would be a millionaire in euros, not Canadian dollars, where it means something, or American dollars, where it means something. So if you ask as a support person, volunteer or staff, if you ask the operating system, the version of Thunderbird, and the email provider, and ask them to try troubleshooting, but of course only ask troubleshoot mode, Thunderbird troubleshoot mode. Of course, only ask them to do this if they haven't done it, which honestly, 99% of the time, they haven't done it. It's hard to convince people that will reply, and so therefore people don't want to waste time putting down all their steps and trying things. But please do that as early as possible in the process. Show that you have read their question. Don't just copy and paste. People think we're bots. People have accused me, Wayne, and others who are frequent repliers on the support forum that we're bots, because sometimes we, in the rush to answer a question, we just copy paste and give no context. So please, copy paste, Cool, but contextualize their problem. Mimic their language. Prove that you have read their question and that you're not just. I think, Wayne, would you agree? I would prefer quality over quantity at this point. It's not about the number of responses. It's about how the quickest answer, quickest path to a solution for the person with the issue.
Yeah. And just to comment on that, there's an element of trust involved. So, if you act like you're trying to have a conversation with them as opposed to talking to them, you'll get much better results.
Yes. Okay, and whenever possible, please link to KB articles so that users learn to self-service. But again, contextualize. Please. Don't just link slap them, as they call it. Yes to copy-pasting a link, and yes to saying this part of that article I just linked to will help you. Or even copy-pasting the text that you think is relevant to their problem from that article. We would prefer that you link to SUMO articles, but there are many places on the internet with information. So if they're like Mozilla Zine, shout out to Mozilla Zine, which was the first support forum for Mozilla products ever, and miraculously still survives to this day. And the other thing is, we would like you to tag questions. I know support volunteers don't feel often that they have the time, but again, quality, not quantity. So we don't want to have we have an informal taxonomy that we discuss here. So just like the bug number, bug with no space and the bug number. If you as a contributor know that it's about a particular bug, Thunderbird version like TB128 or TB115, your email provider like Gmail, Outlook, Hotmail, your ISP if it's relevant like Comcast. It usually is relevant or often is relevant, because ISPs can do things like block Thunderbird ports, pop SMTP and IMAP ports, for those who understand what those things mean. And please do avoid suggesting unsupported customizations via user Chrome and about config. I don't actually have a problem with user Chrome and about config. What I have a problem with is that it's unsupported, because the code is written in such a way often that these things can be taken away and broken at any time without any notice. Software developers can't tell that 2,000 people depend on the CSS class to customize a Thunderbird. They don't know. We have no way of knowing what's in your local user Chrome.css file, for example. And again, software developers usually put in preferences for debugging purposes, for like turning a feature on in daily or beta and off in release. And so when you suggest these things, you are suggesting an unsupported path that may break the user down the road and reduce goodwill to Thunderbird. And again, do ask for help if you know how to reply to a question. If you don't know exactly how to reply to a question, we have the Matrix channel, Slack channel. And again, we have the community support channel in Matrix, which you can also ask. I'll put a link in the wiki page. You can ask questions about just in general if you don't know how to solve an issue. But if it's a meta issue, please ask a TB support group. And please, unless you're experienced, like, you work at Ubuntu developer relations, for example, don't file a bug unless you create a SUMO question first. Or if you're a code contributor, or if you're Paul Wright, or you're David SK, or you're Matt AU support, and you've done 30,000 replies, don't file a bug unless you create a SUMO questions first. If you're Matt AU support and people like that with thousands of replies under their belt, I think it's legit for you to file a bug. And people can file a bug on your behalf once you've created that support question. Just because you choose to create a SUMO question first doesn't mean a bug won't be filed eventually. And we're happy to file bugs on your behalf. If SUMO is hard to use, bug reporting systems are an order of magnitude harder to use. And the don'ts. Don't put up with abuse. Wayne, can you say more on this? I didn't really know what to say here, so report it to Wayne, but how best? Is that even the right advice?
Yeah, if somebody's being, attacking in words or in tone, If they're being rude, you don't have to put up with it. And I believe you can actually click on something in the UI to report.
Yes, you can.
Things.
But I think you should report to Wayne too, if at all possible.
Well, quick question. If the person clicks in the UI, does that report go to you, Wayne, or out into the ether?
It goes to people who watch that particular mailbox. I don't actually get those, but there are people who do, and they're very good about taking care of those things.
Gotcha.
Okay. Yeah, and there is a CPG, which you all are supposed to follow. A contributor participation guidelines document, otherwise known as a code of conduct in other projects. So maybe you'll put a link to that in the action item for me to put that link to that in the wiki page. Finally, don't lose your cool. Like I said, mimic their language or use their language, but don't use their swearing language. People get frustrated. Email is important to people. It has bills. It has many things.
Medical information.
Yeah. As a support volunteer, if you feel like you're using to lose your cool, just step away from the keyboard. Don't reply. Or ask somebody at TV support crew, is this reply negative, bitter, not cool? We can help with that. Yeah, email is very important. I mean, people say no one uses email, but I think that's actually not true. In a corporate setting, in a company setting, I think more than ever people use email. And so they use it, but they're frustrated. And so that's why they're asking the question. That's why they use inappropriate language. If it's inappropriate in a big way, again, report it. We can do things like delete the inappropriate language. And I believe some of the volunteers have privileges to do that. Wayne and I definitely do. Please take the higher ground. And if you can't, step away. We don't want burnout. We don't want frustration. This is just a fun thing to do. It actually is a fun thing to do, to try to help people, acting as detective, acting as Ms. Marple or Hercule Poirot. Agatha Christie reference for you old timers. Yeah. Anything else to say there, Wayne?
No, I agree. It should be fun.
Yeah. I should have said that. Do have fun. Do have fun, people. Next slide, please. Oh, this is the fun part where I get to stop talking and Wayne gets to start demoing. But Wayne, you're going to demo on the live site, which is support.mozilla.org, correct?
I am, yes.
Yes. So support.alazam.org, you can pretend or practice answering questions. And it's appropriate to ask Wayne and I or anyone else in the community to help you out, even if you're just on Alazam.
Okay.
Okay, take it away, Wayne.
Thank you, Roland. So there are many places here where you could click. This is a view of the questions that have been posted on the community forum and the places where you could click. You should be able to see my wonderful cursor. One place here is this line at the top, more or less, which are questions which have 0 replies. And then there's a view kind of here at the bottom also, which shows different slices as well. So if you wanted to see everything that's been posted in the last couple days, you would click all here on the left. The attention needed one means that the last person who posted is not the original poster. In other words, somebody helped and the question has not been marked answered or solved, and does not have a reply from the original poster. Responded, I believe, means that the original poster has responded, and so maybe it's appropriate for someone to follow up. I may have gotten that backwards. Responded means someone other than the original poster has answered.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Attention needed means attention needed means that the original poster has responded and has not marked the question answered, and someone needs to follow up. And then done would mean that the question is answered.
And it was marked as answered.
Yeah.
Which is
There's
rare.
some other slices and dicing that can be done along the right-hand side here for people who have the privilege to do so. So we're going to click on Help Solve Them. And these are the questions which have not been answered in the last 24 hours. And we're going to pick a couple. We're going to pick this one for starters.
Ooh, tree tabs. That's so cool.
So, yes, it is very cool. This question is asking for live support, which we do not do. So if we go to Google and we say KB support Thunderbird FAQ, I believe we will find the article that says Thunderbird does not provide direct support. So we're going to paste this in. Unfortunately, we do not manage. Please post your question here. And they do have sort of a question. They can't open it properly, but we don't know what that means.
Yes, you should attempt to address that somehow.
Yeah, so is this where we'd want to ask, like, hey, can you provide us with those details?
Correct. Please post your question here with more details.
Great.
And there's a checkbox here, need more information from user. We can check it, but I don't believe that it doesn't really have any particular effect. So that one is done. We go back to our list
Can do one more?
questions.
Well, here's a question. Since you just responded, are you going to automatically get notified when that responder comes back and answers your, posts more information or comments again?
That's a good question.
Yes.
So if we go back to that, yes, the answer is yes. There is, when you answer a question, you're automatically subscribed, is the typical.
I see. Okay.
The language used, just as if you signed up for an email thread or something like that. You can go in and turn off the emails, but yes, I would get an email.
And you won't get an email, which means it's email subscription, right? Subscribe to feed.
Subscribe to feed, I don't use that, but if you were to put this link into a feed, you would have the same effect. You could get your responses or their responses in an RSS feed instead.
Oh, it's an RSS feed. Sorry.
Cool.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. There's also a way to get a feed of everything that comes through SUMO if you so choose, which is a blast.
Best to be filtered if you're going to do that.
I don't know if we'll do this one, but we'll open it and go take a look at it. There's a couple others in here that I thought we would touch.
Here's the other one. Thunderbird doesn't start, yeah.
Yeah, that was one of them. Empty. We're going to touch these. Can attach large file.
That's interesting, eh? 10 megabytes. Isn't that the limit for Gmail too? Like, it's not exactly a limit that we enforce on the Thunderbird side, is it?
No, we typically providers will enforce a limit, but we do not. There's a number above which you will get prompted to ask whether you want to send the attachment through some other means than email. But we don't force a maximum. So what I'm going to say here is, please provide more information, such as.
And I would also ask to try it in safe mode, and say Thunderbird troubleshoot mode, and also say that email providers often limit the size of attachments, and that is beyond our control or something.
Yeah, cannot.
Because 10 megabytes is pretty big. I mean, it's not big in terms of our hard disks and our SD cards, but it's big in terms of email.
I'm also going to say, as we mentioned earlier in this slide, provide a screenshot, because oftentimes there's more information provided on the error dialog than the user provides.
Absolutely.
In their posting.
We do live in a screenshot culture now, at least for those younger than 50.
We answer, post it, and move on. Thunderbird doesn't start.
This is where we need more
That's a tough
troubleshooting information.
Well, so here's an interesting thing. We can go to question details and more system details, and we know the user's on Windows 10.
Right, and we know that they're using Firefox 128, but that doesn't tell us what version of Windows Fire Thunderbird they're using.
Did it show that they're using Thunderbird 128?
Firefox 128. It shows you whatever browser you're using to make the question.
Yes, that's correct. But it doesn't tell you what version of Thunderbird. So
nope.
I usually make a notation.
Descriptive
in the
titles
summary.
Are good.
Yeah, that's a good point. I usually also provide more detail in the subject. That helps other people. Like a one-word summary does not convey to the people who are looking for questions to be answered the information that's going to be in that posting, and so they might just bypass that because I tend to want to answer things that I think I can answer, right? And so therefore I want to see something in the summary which conveys, well, what is this question about?
Yeah, and people scan the summaries, aka titles, when they're choosing to really help others.
Yeah. So it doesn't start. This is another one for troubleshoot mode.
So wait, you don't have, I have a list of canned responses on my local hard drive. You do not have such a file.
I don't have a file. Oftentimes I'll just look it up in Google so I know, because actually I want to give the support article in this particular case because it goes into the detail that's needed.
Correct.
So support KB Thunderbird troubleshoot mode, because the choices are operating system dependent. And when they start it in their browser, they will get what they need I'm using a Mac, but they're using a Windows. So if you want to start in troubleshoot mode when Thunderbird is not running, you want to hold down the Shift key.
Exactly.
Please try troubleshoot mode. Paste the instructions down there and the link.
Need the link, yeah.
I tend to not to be too verbose.
I tend to be overly verbose.
Yin and yang.
Yeah.
Thunderbird is not responding. This is another good one for troubleshoot mode. Actually, this is one I have set up that I do have a canned response. Assuming they're on Windows, and 90% of our users are on Windows, so it's likely Windows 10.
I am using LogSeek, which is a knowledge management tool for my canned responses. Some people use Obsidian. Some people use... There's so many knowledge management systems for your personal stuff. Some people use keyboard shortcut programs. Like you could have a keyboard shortcut for troubleshooting mode for Windows.
Yes, and there is a common responses link here, which I have not been educated enough to use. But
the problem with it's slow and you have this multiple steps. It's not as fast as copy paste from LogSeek or Obsidian or from an Emacs for a text file or from Visual Studio Code, whatever. This is one of the features that we like to improve, get the team to improve on. The canned responses feature, because it should be nimbler, in my opinion.
So this person is on Windows 10. Using the combination of Windows Safe Mode and Thunderbird Troubleshoot Mode is a good combination for Windows users because it kills two birds with one stone. Takes that antivirus out of the equation and a whole bunch of other things. So that's a choice that I like to present users as a first option. And we're also going to go back, and oftentimes in the body they will have something useful.
I would put
more
the word in
useful than the
Spectrum too.
subject.
My Thunderbird account on Spectrum is not responding or something.
Yeah. Although those tend not to be account related or provider related.
Yeah.
So we've done 3. And we feel
that's a good demo.
So this is kind of going back to, this ties in with our previous office hours, the part 1. But did the forum, did that get its start at the same time as the KB articles did?
If I may go back to prehistory.
Mm-hmm.
I believe, Wayne, correct me if I'm wrong, because you were around then and I wasn't. I believe that the first party site that Mozilla hosted was for KB, and it was on TikiWiki. I think the forum and the KB existed without a forum, and the forum was on Mozilla Zine, if I get history timing right. And then in 2010-ish is when they launched both forum and knowledge base on support.mozilla, or using the software written in Python called Kitsune, codename Kitsune.
So would you say that the limited people resources is the main struggle of the forum these days? To either one of you?
To some degree. I think another aspect to it is that that in Thunderbird, you have a link to go to the help forum, but it doesn't fill things out for you. Like it doesn't give your version number. It doesn't give information about your local system. So there are things which could be automated in some way, as they are for Firefox, to make it easier for users to provide, you know, a good question. There are things in our brains that are hoping that someday we will make it super easy for users to click the link and have them opt in to providing a great amount of detail about their system if they so choose.
Yeah, like a template would be really nice.
Yeah, I think the tweaks that Wayne suggested could and should be done in the short to medium term. And in the long term, I feel like we should, perhaps using Mozilla accounts, have a way so people don't have to log into SUMO. And have a way to share their troubling and shooting information that doesn't require copy paste. Automatic, as Wayne suggested. Have a way to capture the state. All the things that people do in mobile apps these days. Like, what's the equivalent on desktop of shaking the phone and then it causes logs to be sent? On iOS and Android, you can shake a phone and a lot of apps will say, hey, I noticed you're shaking the phone. Are you having an issue? Could we send the logs to the software developer? Something like that on desktop would be great.
How many active contributors that answer questions would you say there are?
We've only got access to the data recently, but it appears that it's several dozen in the last year. But over, let's say, the 5 years, it's several hundred. But at any moment in time, there's 2, 3, 4 dozen active contributors, it sounds like.
Nice.
I would like more. So we need, I feel like the workflow, a shout out again to the Mozilla Live Helper add-on, which I believe helps a lot of people answer questions. Say you only want questions about Thunderbird, or only want questions about Firefox, or only want questions about Firefox or Android. I believe the Mozilla Live Helper helps you answer those questions more optimally than the default workflow. And it's a Firefox extension. And I will link to it in the wiki page.
Yeah. So even if you don't maybe have like the historical data, especially like, you know, Wayne, you've been here for pretty much almost since the start. What's your perception of, has that trend, has it going up? Does it kind of go up and down? Are there any kind of patterns you notice to the number of people who are actively answering questions?
A lot of the people who are active currently have been active for many years. As Roland has said, there have been people who have left, and in fact, indeed, some have passed away. But we tend to have, I would say, you know, a good core of 10 to 12 people who are answering several hundred, if not 1,000 a year. There are others who are contributing who are less frequent. So I think we're pretty consistent over the years.
That's very good.
And I don't know how that happens, but it does.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sticking with us again. Thank you.
All right. And Heather, if you want to take the next one.
Yeah.
Some more techie questions.
Yeah. So I don't know how techy this is going to be, but I know it's ideal for a user to go to the forum and search for their question first. But if they don't, then is there an easy way to deal with duplicates or repeat questions? Or is that just someone has to go manually?
If it's the same person, we can close the question. We do that.
Okay.
Veteran volunteers who have the privileges, and Wayne and I can close questions and say, this is a duplicate of your previous question.
Right. But if it's a different person, different.
We don't have a way, if what you're asking is we don't have a way to combine threads and split up threads in the SUMO form.
That's too bad. Okay.
I think it would be nice. I'm not sure how that would work in the long run, how well that would work, but I think it would be a nice moderator-only privilege.
Yeah.
I don't know what you think, Wayne.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know, because it doesn't, the one I like, that I've used a lot is Discourse, which has been tried at Mozilla and hasn't worked for other products and other communities. But I feel like with that kind of, it is possible. I think Discourse, you can do it. And look at Slack, which is not forum, obviously, it's chat, but that makes it even more difficult. And you can move things around between threads. I think it would be a powerful admin and volunteer moderator experience and feature. I would love to have it.
It tends to be more useful when you have emerging problems that affect a ton of people.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, we tend not to have that.
Yes.
And I hesitate to spell out some of the ones that we do have, but a few do exist currently.
And what can we do to give people who see SUMO, who want to ask a question, how can we give them the confidence that their question will be answered?
I think, while there's no guarantee, and I think you had some statistics, Roland, at some point about the percentage of questions that have been answered in like a 72-hour period or some period of time.
Yes.
It is fairly high. I think it used to be above 70%.
Yeah, I think 72 hours is above 80. Well, one reply. I would love to improve the workflow experience for someone, a volunteer supporting other people with Thunderbird issues, so that it's easier. It is, in fact, if you answer, let's say, 10 questions a week, brand new questions. If you do that for 30 weeks of the year, you're going to miss some follow-ups because the workflow isn't that as great as it could be. So I'm not a UX expert, but I would love some way of improving that workflow for volunteers so we don't miss follow-ups, and so that it is easier for the original poster to say, hey, that answered my question, or hey, I fixed it on my own, or or I found an answer somewhere else. That's also something data we'd like to know, right? Like, I found the answer in Reddit. It doesn't have to be that specific like Reddit, but be great to know. I think there's all kinds of improvements we could think of that have been thought of. There are lists everywhere. There are Bugzilla bugs and GitHub issues in the Cassini GitHub repository for the software written in Python that powers Mozilla Support.mozilla.org.
A person can, I think, improve the odds that their question will be squirrels running across my roof. Increase the odds that your question will be answered. Providing a subject which is representative of what your problem is. Don't assume what the solution is. Let that to the person who answers your question. Provide a screenshot. Provide your version number.
I guess
respond to someone who tries to answer your question.
Yeah.
As opposed to just leaving it idle. It's kind of demotivating.
And I should say that SUMO questions are auto-closed after 6 months, regardless, by the software. So yeah, the odds of your question being answered are going to go up, especially if it's a Windows question and you fully describe your problem in the subject and fully summarize it in the subject as much as possible, or a title, whatever you want to call that first one line, and then in the body, give as much information. But it all boils down to your operating system, your Thunderbird version, what you did, what you expected, and what actually happened. For some reason, people have a hard time communicating those three things. but that's really what we need. What you did, what you expected, and what actually happened with a screenshot would be wonderful. If you don't do that, it's like
it's harder.
Either you get a certain amount of contributor fatigue. Do I really want to like try to mind read or try to like play around? I hate to use this phrase, around a game of 20 questions with this person to figure out what their problem is. That is a frustrating experience from both sides.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said during the presentation, it is I understand why people give as little detail as possible because they don't actually expect a response. There's a bit of cynicism, dare I say, out there. They don't expect a response. But I think you'd be surprised if you take the time to give what you did, what you expected, what happened, Thunderbird version operating system, mail provider. I think you'll get a reply more often than not. We would like to make it better now that I'm aboard and that we're finally going to get some metrics data. We would like to make it better. But free products are always going to be supported primarily by volunteers. There's just no way around that at this point, for us anyways. And volunteers have limited time and energy.
So true. So true. Yeah.
Yeah.
And time zones.
If people can just exercise some basic empathy to be like, the person that's going to receive this, what kind of information do I think they're going to want? And if I was answering the question, what would I want? What kind of tone would I want to be used with me? That kind of thing.
Doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, I think this was a very informative. Words are hard.
It's
informative episode. Thank you both very much for the work that you do on the forum and the articles. And I think it's really nice to show that you two prevalent support people are like real people and that you're nice people. And I think it's great to have your guidance on how others can get involved to support the other users out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do any of you have any final words before we call it?
Wayne?
Come join us and help other users.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd like to add is Wayne and I at least are encouraging. It's okay to make mistakes.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, oftentimes, as I said, you don't have what the person did, what they expected, what happened, the email version, Thunderbird version, email provider. Sorry, all for all those details. So you're guessing. So you might get it wrong. So I think it's actually okay to guess. That's better than a wall of silence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're very, very thankful for the amazing replies that we do get from our amazing volunteers. Thank you.
Yeah. Great. Well, thank you, all the volunteers out there. Thank you, future volunteers that are inspired by this video. And thank you, mentors here, for those future volunteers. We will end it here, and we'll see you next month with another episode of the Community Office Hours of Thunderbird. So, bye for now.